Yeah, so I was in the marital and family therapy program, and I graduated in 2023. Cannot believe that it's been 3 years. Um, yeah, and that helped me get to where I wanted to go, being a therapist now, licensed marriage and family therapist. I did the online program as well. I really, really appreciated the flexibility because, as crazy as this might sound, my partner was also going to grad school and didn't have an online option. So I needed to be the flexible one, and I was happy to be. And I was so glad that Alliant had a program that had the proper accreditations that was going to be regarded, highly once I got out into the field. So it was great for me to have that flexibility while we went to New York City. I just made sure that I was back. There were some logistical things to work out, specifically with getting the MFT and being remote, in that I wanted to be planted where I was going to be doing my practicum hours. So I just made sure I was back in California by then, so that when it came time for the face to face of getting your hours with clients, I was planted and stable, and also starting to make connections where I'd be working. I didn't want to have any issues of getting hours in one state, not being able to transfer them. But for the time that I could just be in those preliminary class years, be just learning remotely, for me, that was amazing, so that I could, I mean, being a therapist is about relationship, right? So I also wanted to be working on my relationship to my career and be working on my relationship to my partner at the same time. And it allowed me to have both of those things at once and also have the experience of living somewhere else. So it was so helpful to me. Yes. So currently I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, very glad to say it. And I'm working in private practice. I see adolescents and preteens. I actually start 8 plus because to me that's a preteen zone. So I have a bunch of different things on my caseload, and I really like the variety. As much as people are encouraged to have a specialty, I actually really like just kind of being with the humanity of a lot of different populations and the variety that gives me. Love kind of seeing humanity at all these different stages of life. So on my caseload, I have adolescents or preteens starting at 8, and I see adults. I work with a few couples, and I've also run groups, women's groups, and kind of specific interest groups long term. So I've had a group that ran for over a year, for example, and it's that weekly coming together. So that's a little bit of what my private practice entails. And I made that leap after getting licensed just before the new year, so at the end of 2025. Um, and that was a whole thing. I mean, taking that test, but I have to say, Alliant, even though I had to kind of um, dust off some of the information to remember it, I had a lot of great study materials from Alliant, and the nuts and bolts of what I needed to know really were all in the program, truly. So that was really helpful. I just had to like refresh on a lot of things, but we did learn all of that. I just had to make sure that I remembered all of it for that test. Um, but it was good to feel like that was there. And even in that last exam that we took, and I'm not sure if it's working the exact same way, but the last exam that I took at Alliant, I feel like that was really good preparation for all this information that you'd need to know. Not only that's helpful clinically, but that you would need to know on both the law and ethics exam and the licensure exam. And so now I'm in private practice and I'm licensed, which feels great. And I'm starting my own business and have flexibility. But I also have a little bit of a safety net from my prior job, which is where I got all my hours as an associate at a group practice. So that's where I built up my clientele and had a supervisor who really helped me find my way and encouraged me to find populations that were of interest to me, and really was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to work in a group practice? Do you want private practice? And she was a really great mentor for me. Um, the caseload I built, a lot of them live locally to that place where I was seeing them in person. So I was able to go on and rent space from her so that my clients have continuity and where they're being seen, which is awesome. And even though private practice, people say, can be quite isolating, because I'm renting from my old employer in this space that I feel really comfortable in around other practitioners that I know, some of which are renters like me in private practice, some of whom are part of the actual group practice. It's nice because I have a community of seeing the same faces in the hallway, and I got to take my caseload from that group practice associate job all the way through to licensure and my own caseload. So I feel really lucky to have a community and familiarity in my new role, and parts of it are very on me to kind of discover the rules of my own business and all the flexibility that I have about my schedule. But I also feel like I have, yeah, this community around me, and it's not so isolated. Um, Prior to that, I had a wonderful internship that I started while I was at Alliant, and I'm so glad that that worked out, because that whole situation of being placed in an internship site, it can be a little stressful, um, but that was great. So it all began, at Alliant, at that great internship site, but also receiving great support while I was at Alliant in practicum, and being able to share, even though it was very vulnerable, be able to share what I was doing with clients and bringing it to Alliant professors who had similar backgrounds working in private practices or school settings. And because my internship involved part community mental health and part being in a school setting, so it was really helpful that my practicum instructor had a similar background and was really familiar with, okay, yeah, here's some of how this works. And it was it was really great. So I really feel like my career path began, even networking wise, and knowledge wise clinically, but really began like while I was still at Alliant. And I think for me at least, that was a big part of my professional life in terms of where I went, was the choice of internship site, the connections that I made while I was there, the supervisors that I had, alongside the support that I was getting from practicum at Alliant, um, because it was a supervisor from my internship that I said, when our relationship was coming to its contractual end, I was like, is there anyone that you think might be hiring an associate? I would so appreciate it. You know my vibe, and I really liked this supervisor at my site, and he's like, keep bugging me and I'll connect you with someone. And one of those someones ended up being my boss at that group practice, who's now like a mentor who I see in the halls, and now we're colleagues, even though I'm much newer than her. So it all kind of started there. And I would say, like, don't underestimate, um, even if it feels like, oh, I'm so far off from being licensed, don't underestimate that, like, it's beginning really early. It's all of like where you might be able to go in a good way, um, is all beginning really early. It could be really beginning at that first internship and what you're learning and who you're meeting. Not that it has to happen that way, but it's really lovely. And I imagine it would have been nice for me to hear, like, hey, Melanie, like, all the stuff that you're doing over here, um, it's not just, we're not just trudging through it. This is meaningful. And the work that you're doing now and the people that you're meeting now are going to have an impact on your future. I think I was good at being present with it, but I didn't realize that at the time. And I'm really grateful. So maybe that's nice for people to hear kind of in retrospect. The experience of, even though I was in an online program, the experience of the role plays and the, yeah, just being able to act out therapy with my other people in my cohort was really, it was so unique. When are you doing that in a learning experience? It's very unique to learning how to be a therapist. But I felt like, wow, it was a really quick way to feel some closeness and support with classmates, even though we were online. And I learned so much from it. I learned so much from watching, because we're all like reading the same things about theories. And I learned so much from seeing what stood out to them, and also from seeing some of my classmates' delivery or where they would put certain interventions in a session, how they built rapport. And it's sort of, there's something happening underneath what we're doing because we're also actually building rapport with each other in role playing these client therapist exercises. So I think that was just really unique to what it is to learn to be a therapist. And I'm sure that's part of a lot of programs, but it certainly was a big part of the program at Alliant. And I felt like, yeah, it really bonded me to people, but also I learned so much from seeing how other people therapized, how other people did it, right? And what stood out to them and what did they think would be most effective. And there's also a personal element to this too, where there's a lot of encouraging of self-reflection and what's going on with what brought you to this field to begin with, and what are your blind spots, and what kind of inner work maybe do you have to do to be more open and available for your clients. So us sharing and all of that, I think, was also really bonding and challenging, but challenging in a good way. Okay, so I have kind of two pieces that I think shaped my interest and career direction most. Um, the first one comes pretty early. It's that I think there are two like basic theory courses that you take. And that was really interesting to me because they're doing a broad overview of the most common theories or the most evidence-based theories, really a combination of the two. And for me, that was my first foray into really understanding what hit me when I read about it and read the interventions, what excited me and what I felt like, ooh, I'm excited to do this Gestalt thing where I'm having an empty chair exercise and I'm going to someone, I'm going to a client, okay, why don't we put this person in the chair and what would you want to say to them if they were here? You can say anything. Like things that interventions that I would read about in that class, I would just go. Some of them it's like, ho hum. Some of them I was like, wow, I wonder if that really works. Or I really want to try that. And that's part of it too. Just because you get excited about something doesn't mean that it's going to be effective or that it's going to be effective with everyone either. But I loved feeling like that stirring of what I was drawn to, and that's still with me today. Like I love that Gestalt approach. I love psychodynamic therapy, narrative therapy, where you're looking at the story of someone's life and how important it is that we're sort of the author of our own story. We're not carrying around old stories that maybe don't have us feeling so great about ourselves. Um, and that was my foundation of feeling, yeah, that initial spark of excitement or stirring of interest. It's still a different whole process that I'm still working on to this day because each person that we sit with is different and has different needs, but it's still a process to go, how do I deliver these pieces of theory? How do I do it in practice? And what resonates and with whom? But um, yeah, that it was very exciting to go, oh yeah, I want to try that. Does that really work? Or even because most people coming to this program have been in therapy and we're required to be in therapy as part of the program. And I had been in therapy prior. I was going, oh, that's what that person was doing. That's what that therapist was doing to help me. And that wasn't helpful, and that was. And that's just my experience. But I was relating to it from all these different angles and also really feeling this excitement to try things. Now getting to the second part was the practicum, which I talked about a little bit already. And I don't want to botch this teacher's name, but I did have a practicum professor. Her name was Miriam Banyadian. Banyadian? I hope I'm saying it right. And Miriam was just so warm and, like aforementioned in another question, was had some similar experiences of working in community mental health, school setting, and now had private practice and was teaching. So that was very aspirational to me that she had been some of the places that I was and had gotten to the place that she was at teaching and being in private practice. And I really learned so much from seeing her teach, but in practicum, you're sharing, vulnerably sharing your work, your videos of clients, if that's what's permitted, or audio of clients, or just case presentations. And the way that she showed up for it with a lot of patience and um, openness, not judgment, not right or wrong, a lot of curiosity about why people were doing what they were doing. So there was really appropriate challenge and directness, but also a lot of warmth and openness. I learned a lot from that. And I just thought, wow, this is probably how she shows up with clients. That's really nice and feels really good. And I feel really seen as someone who's trying to learn this. I'll call it an art. Someone who's trying to learn this art of being a therapist. And just in seeing her way of being, I learned a lot from that. I also learned that prior to this, I worked in entertainment, and a lot of that, like when I was doing a musical on a professional level, you everything is mapped out. You hit your mark at that time of the music, and it feels really satisfying, and you know that you did it right. And if you didn't, you will get notes and you will hear about it. But this is different. This is a different kind of work, and it works more in nuance, some uncertainty. You don't always get immediate feedback, although you're looking for how things land on your client. And it's also not work that is performance or perfection based. There isn't really a right. You're trying to be in connection with your client and seeing what lands with them, and also being authentic to yourself. So I got a good dose of the difference in practicum too, because I realized, wow, I have my own instincts of showing up perfectly here and wanting to go, Miriam, like, look what I'm doing. I'm doing a good job, right? Like, I'm hitting my marks. But it was not about that. Because the real learning, yes, there are like, wow, that was landing well. That's cool. That opened up something for that person. But a lot of the learning happened in my ability to be vulnerable about what I felt wasn't working, where I was getting stuck, where imposter syndrome was coming up for me. And that was really helpful to have that space in practicum to challenge myself, to get vulnerable about what I was confused about or what I felt like really wasn't working. And I really appreciated practicum for that. It was really an important part of my journey. The advice that I would give current students or recent graduates is um, I think to be present, and there's a lot going on and you're really busy, but to be present with what you're doing and also taking really good care of yourself while you're in school. I think I definitely felt some overwhelm at times, but hopefully it's helpful that the content that you're learning has tools in it for self-care. So taking really good care of yourself, I think that's a part of it. I think a part of it also is like listening to those stirrings of what's exciting to you and seeing kind of how you can follow that and taking that with you and really diving deeper into anything that's of interest, because school will do an overview on, like I said, the theories. But if there's something really of interest to you and you feel that stirring of excitement, to do a deeper dive on it, read books, find a podcast that has to do with that modality, um, find a therapist who practices it, who's inspiring to you, and just keep learning, but in the direction that is really of interest to you. I would also say if twists and turns come up, as they will, because life will be lifing, it's you do not know. Trust the process of the twists and turns, because what I'm thinking of, I have a specific example coming up of for my internship. I really wanted to do my internship at this place that I ended up doing it at Maple Counseling, which was wonderful, and I think it helped me get where I am today. But I wanted to work with adults, and they offered me a spot to work with adolescents. And I thought, I was at first a little offended, like, do they think that I was immature or something? But I took a look at that and I embraced it. And I ended up loving unexpectedly working with that population and working with young people. And it was a bit of a twist that I thought was negative, but I just embraced it, and it ended up being now something that I really appreciate about my practice is this different age group that I work with. And it actually is a specialty. Not everyone, it's not the craziest specialty, but not everyone works with teenagers or wants to. So I found that it's really helpful for me professionally to have that on my plate. But when that was first part of the offering of the internship, I was like, what? No. And it's there's so much time to explore, right? And you have to get all these hours. So if something's showing up that's not exactly as you expected, it's going to be an opportunity to confirm maybe your first idea about it. But my first idea about it was totally wrong. So allowing for that too, like being present with the experience of the twists and turns and allowing yourself to explore because it might show up in an interesting way later on. I really appreciate this about my work now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Um, I would say don't be shy to ask anyone that you're feeling connected with for some more help or support or ideas about where to go next, and being assertive in that way because um, you are worth exploring all of the opportunities that could be available to you. And I trust that you'll find a gracious way to do that. I think that even though there was some nervousness in asking for something of my mentors or supervisors, I felt like I was able to do it in a respectful way. And those are the people who know your work thus far. So don't underestimate the power of that, right? They know your work and they are believing in you, and they might really want to help you get to the next place that you're going. So even if it doesn't work out, I think it's always worth that assertiveness and worth an ask. Um, and and to stay connected to those people. Anyone that you find to be inspiring or you're really learning from their way of being as a supervisor or as a professor, to stay in touch with them and keep the relationship going, of course, if they're open to it, because there are some people that I still lean on. I just go, this is a question for this person if they have time. So yeah, staying connected. I also stay connected to a lot of my classmates, and that's of value too, because you're not on an island in this profession, nor do you want to be. And that's not what it's about. This is a profession about connection and humanity and being relational. So to keep those relationships going with your classmates too, I love that. I love that we support each other. We have a group text that blows up sometimes. It's been a little quiet lately. I should probably say something. And that's great too, like to feel supported and feel like you're kind of coming up together, or that you have people to consult with and ask questions to. So along the way, gathering these people that become your community, so that even if you're in private practice, which a common, grievance is that it can be isolating. Well, collect those people as you go so that you're not on an island and you have this like community around you.